Hello Ice and Fire Nerds, this is Chris, and this is going to be a new Game of Thrones series on Smokescreen, an entirely new playlist. I'm kind of going back to an old idea I've had for a long time. It's been on my to-do list for a long damn time. And what we're going to do is go back to the entire saga of Game of Thrones, starting with Season 1, Episode 1, and kind of do a deep dive and find all the foreshadowing moments that we possibly can, all the little moments that hinted at things to come, whether that's an entire scene, whether that's something hidden in the background, or whether that's a single line of dialogue. I think this will be a lot of fun, and this is going to allow me to upload a lot more frequently. So what I'm going to do for this particular series is I'm going to show you guys the scene, and then I'm going to talk about it and then show you that payoff scene in a later episode or a later season, whatever that may be. This won't be a series where I have one episode equals one video. For example, episode 1 of season 1 may take 5 or 6 videos to point out all this stuff, because I really want to dive in here deep and try to find every little piece of information we can that may happen later in the same episode, or it may happen 3 or 4 or 5 seasons later. There are some things in here that are fairly obvious, but there are also some things in here that are not so obvious, and a lot of things I think people probably missed out on, and I know a lot of things I missed out on, so it will damn sure be a good conversation between you guys in the comments as well, because you'll be able to point out some things I may miss, and you'll also be able to expand on some of the things I do point out. It's very similar to watching the show with a new set of eyes. For example, if you started watching the show first, and then you went and read the books, you probably came back and watched the show again with an entire new set of eyes and saw it in a whole different light. And every time you watch Game of Thrones, you pick up entirely new stuff that you missed out on before. I love kind of digging into things like this and finding all the little hints that were there right in front of us the entire damn time. Also, if you're new to Smokescreen, be sure to check out our other playlists. We have Game of Thrones Q&As, Game of Thrones reviews, we have history and lore, we have theory videos, and also we have other things like Star Wars, The Walking Dead, as well as Westworld this year, since it's kind of the new hot thing on TV. So anyway, let's jump right into Season 1, Episode 1, Winter is Coming. The very first sequence of this entire show, we find out there's something bigger going on here right from the get-go. Think back to when you first saw this, you were like, who are these guys, what are they doing, and what the hell is that big giant ass ice wall? And one of the first things we got as far as a particular scene here is when Will comes across the wildling encampment that had been killed by the White Walkers. And they left this pattern in the snow. We were all like, what the hell was that, and what does that mean? It kind of pointed out right from the get-go who they were and what they represented, and of course that represented the children of the forest. We got this payoff scene here in season 6 when Bran got this confirmation. You see these two symbols as well, so these symbols represent the children of the forest. So right from the get-go, they're telling us something bigger is going on here. There's a race of something coming that's really dangerous to the realm. This is really what's going on. This is what's really important, not who sits in that damn iron chair. Now, to kind of reinforce this idea about the children of the forest being the White Walker creators, the very next scene we have Will coming back to Waymar Royce and Garrett.
They even killed the children.
And Waymar Royce, being the asshole he is, thinking he's some kind of hotshot commander at the Night's Watch, tells Will,
it's a good thing we're not children.
Now, of course, in the context of the scene, he's talking about it's a good thing they're not children to be killed, but in the bigger context of the story, he was talking about this scene. Yes, the children, as in the children of the forest, apparently being, at least in the show, the last of the children of the forest being wiped out by their own creations. So I definitely think these first few shots were a direct shout out to the children of the forest, you know, the White Walkers being their creations, and the bigger picture here about what's really going on and the wars to come. And another little scene of foreshadowing here is during the same sequence when Will and Garrett are talking to Royce, telling them we should go back to the wall. Waymar Royce, in all his arrogance, tells Will,
you want to run away south, run away. Of course, they will behead you as a deserter.
And of course, later on in the very next sequence after the opening credits, we are of course introduced to the Starks for the first time in Winterfell, and Ned proceeds to cut off Will's damn head. And also, speaking of heads rolling, I think there's a clear connection here in the first 15 minutes of this show about what was going to happen to Ned. Now, there were a lot of scenes and pieces of dialogue that pointed to Ned Stark's death in episode 9 of season 1. First, we see a White Walker cut off Garrett's head. He tosses it to Will. Will is allowed by the White Walkers to leave and escape as to tell the tales. And of course, he's captured by the Starks and beheaded by Ned, who then of course later on in episode 9 gets his damn head cut off. So it was almost like a rolling theme of heads here, kind of like foreshadowing how Ned Stark was going to die. So again, although there were a lot of things pointing to Ned's death in later episodes as far as foreshadowing goes, I think this specifically told us how this was going to happen. Alright, so as you can see from the very first sequence in the show, before the opening credits even roll, there's a hell of a lot going on, more than we think there is. It points out a lot of things as far as telling us the bigger picture here about what's really going on, what's coming later on down the road, and that's just the first 10 minutes of the damn show. Alright, and one more foreshadowing scene I think we can throw in this first episode really quickly is...
He won't be a boy forever. And winter is coming.
You're damn right, Ned, you're damn right. He's not going to be a boy forever.
I'm the three-eyed raven. I have to be ready for this.
He's going to be the next three-eyed crow. So there are a lot of scenes that could potentially pay this off as far as Bran, but this basically tells us right from the get-go that Bran is going to be very important in our story. He's going to be much more than just another lord. So although episode 1 was full of introductions as far as just kind of introducing us to the main characters, who they were, what houses they belonged to, etc., they told us right from the get-go with certain lines of dialogue and certain things in the scenes themselves visually, right up under our noses, they kind of told us right from the get-go who was going to be relatively special and who was going to survive for a while. So I believe this, in combination with the scene where they were watching Bran, focusing on Bran in the courtyard where he's shooting the bow and arrow and of course missing the target, I believe that told us right from the get-go that Bran was going to be very special in our story. So anyway guys, let me know what you think. I'm sure there's a few things I missed, but this is just covering the first 15 minutes of this episode basically, so a lot of ground to cover, a long ways to go with 60 total episodes plus season 7 and season 8 on the way. As usual, thank you for all the support. Be sure to subscribe to get everything, and make sure you hit that little bell button beside the subscribe button to make sure you get everything, because people are not being notified of new uploads to the channel. People are being unsubscribed to the channel, so if you were subscribed to Smokescreen, make sure you're still subscribed. As usual, thank you for all the support, especially you guys on Patreon. A quick shout out to my Smokescreen executive Patreon producers, Griffin and Vol Guy 10. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.